Welcome to the first installment of Wildlife Talks with ArtCat. Today we're going to be talking about the Virginia opossum and meeting with Kristin from the Center for Wildlife up in Maine. So with that, I'm going to pass it along to Kristin.
So Center for Wildlife is a wildlife medical clinic and environmental education center. We were founded in 1986 by a local veterinarian and state senator that saw there's just no place to bring injured and orphaned wild animals to get medical treatment. There isn't a, state, municipal, or federal branch of government that provides that service. And even, local veterinarians, the physiology of a dog and a cat and, where the humerus is on a red-tailed hawk is much different from that of a golden retriever.
Yeah.
So although they study medicine and can help out sometimes, they're also not able to provide care to animals that don't have owners from illness or disease. Toxicity, lead poisoning, really need the same type of medical treatment to recover, just as much as a person would. We all kind of maybe have in the back of our heads, like, as long as you just feed an animal, it can like magically heal itself. But their physiology, their anatomy is just as intricate, if not more so than ours. That first year, we treated 100 animals. And if we fast forward to today, the community brings us about 2,500 injured and orphaned wild animals that represent 190 different species goal of release. And we also present about 375 environmental education programs to the community each year with the goal of helping to foster nature connection with younger kids and with adults to help them remember the connection to nature and the wonder of wildlife. And also one of the biggest pieces of our mission is to help people understand that wildlife and environmental health is directly tied to us as humans, our well-being. One big response to the pandemic was that people wanted to be out in nature and connect. And we're like, of course you do. So, helping people to remember that. Yeah, we've been in operation for over 33 years. And in that time, we only had one expansion, indoor expansion. So our outdoor facilities are plentiful. We have many raptor, mammal, turtle, songbird houses and places for those animals to heal. So we are very close to finishing a $5.5 million new facility and campus expansion that we've been working on really hard for about 7 years now.
Oh, that's impressive.
Really
and
exciting.
And I can't wait to see it.
I know. I can't wait for you to come up. It'd be awesome. Let me know. We'll do a tour. It'd be fun probably for you to see it like in progress and then see it when it's completely done too. So
that'd be pretty awesome when I braved the pandemic and state lines.
Right. Yeah. We've been really safe, and
you guys already had to take precautions just in general, already interacting with animals and things.
Yeah, we're good at barrier nursing, call it, or keeping things sterile, I guess.
Yeah.
I'll talk just a little bit about opossums and the ecosystem, and then we'll bring her out. We've got a nice afternoon snack for her, so everyone can see her up close. But you had some great questions.
Yeah, I should be saying opossum, shouldn't I? I keep saying, like, we just get brainwashed and we're like, possum, but it really is opossum.
And I loved your question about that. Like, what's the difference? And it's actually, in our country, we have one species of marsupial, one species of opossum, and it's Virginia opossum is actually the name.
Because I did read something, I guess they're completely different species. Like, it's also part of it, like, or something.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to have to look that one up because I know people say possum a lot. They have two parts to their name. But I guess there are like 60 in the world. There's a little over 60 different species of opossum. But around here, we have Virginia opossum. There's so many cool things about opossums. I love them. My husband actually, for the longest time we first started dating, he had a picture of one of our former ambassador opossums, Olivia, and he had her picture up in his office, and I was like, you don't even have one of me. So we're big fans of opossums.
But that's how you guys know you're a good match. Like.
Exactly. So Virginia opossum here, marsupial, which, sometimes people see their like long snout and their long hairless tail, and they might think they're closely related to rats, but rats are obviously
they think rodent.
Yeah. But opossums are in the Didelphidae family, which is a part of the marsupial. So they're not rodents at all. Rats are completely different, and they are in the rodent family.
They're less likely to get rabies, right? Or
yes,
read that right?
Exactly. So they get like vilified. People are like, oh, they're so full of
of disease, and they're like the exact opposite.
Yes.
In fact, they actually help, right?
Right. So opossums' body temperatures are at least 10 degrees lower than ours. Mm-hmm. So they are one mammal that actually cannot successfully incubate the rabies virus because of their body temperature. The only way that someone could get rabies from an opossum is like if the opossum was bit and then the opossum bit immediately, their body...
Like a saliva transfer.
Exactly. So their body is just not... The temperature is just not right to actually incubate or hold on to and carry and spread the rabies virus. And they're strict scavengers. So they don't hunt their own prey.
They're kind of like cleanup crew almost of the ecosystem.
Yeah.
So really, we should be very happy to have them around.
Yes. They're just like a turkey vulture, where they, help nutrients to move through the ecosystem. So one thing we like to say to like kids as we're talking about the roles of scavengers in classes, we say like, picture the world or picture the forest if our scavengers stopped eating all the dead things. What would our world look like?
Stinky and
full of disease. I mean, that's what
pandemic.
Right. That's what spreads disease, like rotting carcasses and insects and larvae and, all that happening. And so these guys have an incredible gut flora, just like our turkey vulture, and have built up a lot of immunities.
Is it true they are resistant to a lot of snake bites?
Yes. Yeah. Most snake venom. And I think that has to do with their body temperature, but they've evolved to be immune to that. Also, botulism. They don't carry Lyme. Let's bring her out, actually. We can bring her out. Hi, honey.
She's so precious.
Yeah.
Oh, look at you, sweetie.
So get her munching.
No.
We've got some carrion in here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Getting some protein.
Yeah. So as our, climate changes, the ecology is changing here in New England and all over, but, ticks are a lot more prevalent, and Lyme disease is obviously something that has emerged as a disease for humans. And I think we have the highest rate of Lyme disease in this region than the entire country. So that's definitely something that has emerged as winters have become milder, and at the same time, opossums have expanded their range north with milder winters, and they're also a species that does okay with human development. They can utilize roadways and systems to expand their range. They are good at scavenging along roadways, benefiting from human trash.
I'm sure that also lead to some accidents as well, or...
Yes. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I know you had asked what their biggest threats are, and it's definitely cars, people trapping and killing them because they do think that they're, full of disease, or they don't know a lot about them. And then domestic animals too. There's run-ins with dogs a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Those are definitely their biggest threats. And being scavengers that are nocturnal for food along roadsides, that does make them pretty vulnerable to being hit by cars. But they have, 60 years ago, people didn't see opossums in Maine, but they've expanded all the way from that kind of mid-Atlantic. They're all the way up through Canada now. And
wow. So they're just moving north?
Yeah, very quick too. But you see her beautiful silver fur. They are meticulous groomers. So they clean themselves just like cats do. And so when they have ticks on them, they clean them. But because they eat insects, they eat them. So they actually are, scientists have researched and found out that they typically eat and consume about 5,000 ticks every season, like every spring and summer season. So they are really kind of co-evolving to helping humans from that front, which we're grateful.
Which we need to be a little bit more appreciative of.
Yeah.
They get so big.
So she's a female, and they're usually about the size of a house cat. The males can be a large house cat. Another great question you had was, their lifespan, and in the wild, really 2 years. They're, what's known in biology as like R-selected or K-selected species, and they're R-selected species, which means that they have a shorter lifespan, but they have tons of babies. So they usually have like 10 to 12 babies in a litter, and depending on where they are in the country, in the South, they can have 3 litters a year.
Oh my goodness.
Up here, it was 1, but now it's 2, and they're starting to eke out a 3rd litter as well. Having, 8 to 10 babies successfully a litter, then that could be, 20, 30 new opossums from one female a year. So where
so they're like playing the odds. So it's like increase the litters so that Wow, just 2 years. That's so sad.
I know. So in captivity, they usually are with us for 4 years. The females tend to live longer than the males, which is interesting. And every one that we've had with us, they've passed away from old age or like a heart disease from just being so old. So they've been elder,
so through natural causes.
Exactly. Way past elderly. As people that obviously love the animals that we're charged with taking care of, and these guys are part of our family. It's tough to have one that has such a shorter lifespan than we do.
Ophelia looks very happy.
Yeah. They only stay inside their mom for 11 to 13 days. So they're only in the womb they gestate for about 2 weeks, where obviously most of our mammals, like porcupines, are 7 months. Obviously humans are 9.5 months.
Much longer.
So they're born really undeveloped. They're born as little fetus kind of that are like the size of a bumblebee. And then they climb into their mom's pouch, and then they each attach to a teat, and that's where they do their development. So they'll stay in mom's pouch for about a little over 2 months, 2 to 3 months, and then they start to come out and they'll climb on her back. I don't know if
like the photos. Like I always see that where there's like she's just like inundated with like little babies all down the back. It's like true symbol of like motherhood.
We had a mom one time that had been hit by a car and her jaw was fractured, and she had babies in her pouch and partner with, and we were like, well, at least we can hopefully keep her comfortable enough to, raise her babies. We weren't sure if she would make it, but she was doing great. She responded awesome. She was eating, and we were actually able to move her to an outdoor enclosure. I remember the day that we went out there and her babies had finally emerged, and so she was like cooking around her enclosure, and she had all 8 riding on her back. It was really sweet. And we were able to really.
It's crazy to think of eight of those on top of her. Like it's just.
So cute.
The weight of it.
Oh, she's foraging right now on some lichen.
Oh.
Totally into it. That's awesome. I know, and I think
like going to town.
People do give these guys like they just have such a bad reputation, but they've got like the cutest little pink noses and
they
like
do.
endearing faces.
Yeah.
Oh, girl.
Watch your face.
She is so cute.
Oh. Sharpening their teeth too, probably.
Yes. Possums have 50 teeth, the most of any mammal.
Oh my gosh, I had no idea.
or being able to kind of handle and eat anything they come across, tear at things, tear at meat, grind up bones. They have a huge mouthful of teeth. So these guys don't have great camouflage. They can swim. They can be pretty fast when they're trying to run away. But one of their biggest adaptations for evading predation is a physiological response that they have. So if she were walking around and sensed like a great horned owl or predator, if opossums sense a predator like a great horned owl, they go into like a physiological response where breathing and heart rate slow down. They will like kind of keel over, and then and
that's where the playing possum comes from.
They also emit like a green oozy foul smelling fluid from their anus, so which everyone's like, that's so nasty, which it is. But so to a predator,
but it does, it serves
they're
its
like
purpose.
I'm gonna get sick if I eat that, move on. So it's fascinating that it's like these guys. And then the turkey vulture too. I remember like when we first got, like when I was training in the clinic and I admitted my first turkey vulture, we have like a chart on the door that says like how to handle patients and different species, and I like quickly looked at the chart and it was like turkey vulture vomits in self-defense. So our two scavengers have like pretty grotesque ways of
pretty good defenses.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, they have a lot of experience with dead, decaying things that might deter other animals.
So like, we know what that looks like. We can mimic that. But it's physiological, so it's like something that snaps, and they kind of don't come out of it usually for like an hour or two sometimes. So.
Oh wow, that's a long time.
Yeah.
I guess you definitely know the predator's gone by then.
Yeah. Plus, you're just laying there like looking like people will get sick if they eat you. So. And
you're probably like, well, this is a good time to take a nap.
Yeah. So she didn't do it for us.
Soak up some sun.
Right. But it's really sweet when she grooms herself. She actually like licks every finger and then runs her hands through her paws through her hair like a comb.
Aww.
So cute.
Aww. That's adorable.
Yeah, other questions that people usually have is like, do they hibernate? And they are active year round. And they're also kind of nomadic because they're scavengers. They don't, store food. They don't have a cache. So if they run out of resources in an area, they will move on.
What can people actually do to sort of help with, I don't know if there's anything you need to do in your yard or your garden to just sort of make it a little bit more welcoming or sustainable for them?
Well, one thing that is super helpful is for people to become knowledgeable about opossums and that, that they are so beneficial, like spreading that word. And then, for any homeowner to decide how they want to coexist. So, if you don't want animals like opossums or skunks or raccoons close to your house, you really should button up any gaps under your shed or under your porch, under your steps.
Right.
Use chicken wire, hardware cloth, whatever you need, because we find that that's like one of the biggest, people call and they're like, I want to get rid of this X, Y, and Z. So that conflict happens because we haven't buttoned up our homes and our outbuildings and our areas to prevent animals from, using that as a den and as their house.
Right.
I think, we don't encourage people to put out food for wildlife. That's when a lot of conflict can happen too. So sometimes
they come to a custom.
Right. They put out like cat food and like, people that are empathetic to or like love opossums, they're like, oh my gosh, like I have this opossum that comes every night and like eats right next to my cat. They're like best friends. So that might happen. So again, to be able to peacefully coexist and not get them habituated, making sure you put away your trash, make sure you put away any kind of pet food or anything like that, so they don't become accustomed to coming up to porches and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So believe it or not, like keeping them not dependent on humans is really helpful. But then if people do want to attract opossums or have an opossum friendly yard or property, keeping up dead trees or snags, they really like to use dens underground. So the root systems where, you know, trees are kind of hollowed out, or like even in the bottom of a tree that's like hollowed out or decayed, that's a great spot for opossums to live.
Probably something like if you had a large property, it might be worth doing. Otherwise, probably, I mean, you don't want to encourage them in somewhere that's smaller or more contained, right?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's like the opposite of like, you know, instead of like putting something out or doing something, you want to actually like kind of almost leave no trace so that you don't encourage that habituation, because you might think it's awesome. So like if you live in a tight neighborhood where an opossum, you know, has to get resources from, you know, it's a half a mile radius. If you encourage them to come up on the deck and then they go to the next neighbor's house and then that neighbor hates them, they're going to trap and take opossum. You know, one of the saddest things that we see a lot is that people want to do that trapping during nesting season. And so, you know, if mom's stressed or if there's babies that are, you know, on her back, they're not all in her pouch, and they trap the mom and relocate, and the babies still left behind, they're going to starve to death. So, you know, the best thing I think to encourage opossums or keep them healthy in the wild is to make sure we're responsible humans and button up trash, you know, don't leave food out, don't habituate them to backyards, and also just spreading the word about how amazing they are and how they actually help us. And one other thing is like, you know, opossums and porcupines both are pretty nocturnal. So, you know, they seem to be one of the biggest dog conflicts between opossums and so just telling people if they're letting their dogs out to go to the bathroom before they go to bed or anything like that, you know, put a light on, make a little noise, and you know, that's another thing too. If people do have opossums in areas that they don't want them, we always encourage people to, like, you know, put a radio on where they're denning, where, you know, they're coming in and out, kind of turn it up and make it unpleasant, make them think there's a lot of human activity happening, and they'll actually take their babies and move on their own. Also put out like ammonia soaked rags, but there's ways to make the den seem unpleasant so that the mom will actually just take off on her own instead of like trapping, relocating, or killing.
So she'll just sort of, her and the babies will just relocate. They'll think that it's like unsafe or there's too much. We have one that we see tracks in our backyard every once in a while, and I kind of suspected maybe she might be under the shed. So we were and that's in the winter time. So we just kind of steered clear of that area around nighttime so that she could just do her thing. But I don't think, I think just trying to have a yard, or just knowing that you want to coexist and you want to help keep them wild and let them do their own thing, I think is maybe for opossums the best way to get them to come around and be safe, you know, because again, it's, you know, we might want them or whatever, but it's the same with most, especially mammals, you know, especially if a mammal becomes habituated to someone else, they immediately think rabies a lot, or that the animal's sick, or, you know, mad that it's in their yard. Or they see something they think they shouldn't see during the daytime, and all of a sudden it's rabies.
Yes.
Like, he was just relocating because someone left the radio on.
We get those calls all spring and summer, and I have 2 children, and they nursed, and I know how much work it was to do one at a time, but to keep up the calorie intake of like 5 to 12 babies, you better believe that mom has to forage and hunt all day and all night, and she's not just strictly nocturnal during that time.
Wow. What would happen if someone came across the babies, but they couldn't find the mother anywhere? Is it similar to, like, does the mother ever leave them like with birds, or is it just sort of like if the baby's truly by itself, then it's time to go to like a rehabber?
Yeah. So opossum moms are, I mean, all of our wild moms are great moms, but the opossum mom and the babies are definitely together until the opossum is on its own. And an opossum that's about this big, not including the tail, is an opossum that's like ready to be on its own. So any guys that are like this small, even if they have fur, even if their eyes are open a little bit, they actually stay with their mom for about 4 months. Start to disperse on their own. So if someone is finding, I mean, no fur, definitely, no fur, eyes closed, even some fur, and even if they're this big and they're furred and their eyes are starting to open, they still are not big enough to be on their own.
And that's then you would do the Google search engine and look up your local rehabber and ask them how to best get that to them. And never ever drop them on the door if someone is not there. Like, never leave them by them.
And we always tell people to, like, keep the animal warm in a quiet, dark place. Don't feed any food or water. As humans, we're like, we just want to take care of you, and you're probably hungry. But feeding the wrong, every single mammal that we treat, we have a different specialized formula, because with the eastern cottontail to a chipmunk to a porcupine, the fat to carbohydrate, mineral content, protein, all of those ratios are all different. They're all specialized. So you can actually cause dehydration, diarrhea, digestive issues. And sometimes people, feed and they're not feeding even milk, like they're feeding something different. That can cause, especially if people are doing eyedroppers or like shoving some food or liquids down, it can cause what's called aspiration, which means that the fluid ends up going into the lungs. So it can cause pneumonia and unfortunately be fatal. So the best thing, even though it's sometimes the hardest thing to do because we're so tempted to like take care of by like feeding and tucking someone in, just keep them warm and not try to feed them. Other times their bodies are in shock or they're dehydrated and emaciated. So giving them some food and making their organs work to process that can be enough to push them over the edge. So, when animals are emaciated or dehydrated, we have, we start on subcutaneous fluids and we work our way up. It's like who's been maybe in the hospital for, a month or two. They can't just eat a cheeseburger. You got to start.
You got to ease them back into real food. There's a lot of work.
I know. Stuff we don't necessarily always think about, but I would say like opossums are with their parents. They're in the pouch until 2 to 3 months, and then they're still, even if they're foraging and eating on their own and even weaning from mom, they're still under her protection until they're about 4.5 months old, I believe. Hope I'm right on my timing, but I think I am. So when in doubt, if someone looks out of place and young, too young to be, and we always tell people too, just a cardboard box with a soft towel or fleece is perfect. Or dog or cat carriers are great too. But any kind of like metal or wire, even like bird cages, for birds, they can break feathers against that. And then just for little guys, little hands, noses, they can actually, get stuck or scrape their hands things. So
yeah, so really
so
it's just the
soft-sided.
basic cardboard box with
It's
a little
perfect.
towel on top is all
Exactly.
all you need.
Yep.
What are ways people can help out the center?
Yeah, so definitely our wish list. So like I said, we treat a high volume of a lot of different species. So we just go through things like cleaner and trash bags and the basics, nitrile gloves really quickly. So when people, can help us out and purchase those things and send them to us, that helps, free up just the cash we might need to like make repairs on things or even obviously qualified staff time. Community has supported us through this pandemic so far. To us as an organization, any gifts in any way that people value wildlife is a big deal. Wildlife and the environment is a field that gets like 1% to 2% of philanthropic giving every year. It gets put aside sometimes as like, oh, I'll do that after, after I take care of this cause.
Like with most things, like even if you can't financially, there's always awareness you can do and getting the word out. So that's another thing.
Yes.
And then if you ever have things that you're not using from your pets, sometimes those can get donated as well.
Yeah. Right now we're building a nature center as part of that for hands-on interactive exhibits for children and adults, and also food and pollinator gardens. So if people tool around on our website, we're looking for some funky things like, a pillow that looks like a rock, or, if people have
something that can be sort of interactive and
growing in their yard, those can be great. A lot of ways to get involved, definitely. Telling people that our possums are amazing. And their tracks in the snow are so beautiful. They look like little stars because their hands, they're very close to having an opposable thumb, but their little hands and their fingers are spread out, so they make these like really cute, beautiful star-shaped tracks in mud or snow. And I was so excited when we finally had one on our property.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time out to talk with me and discuss things and possums. It's been enlightening.
Good. Thanks for including us.
No problem.
Nothing, but she says thank you too.
Aww.